Hello,
I'm Brooke, Horan. Here to represent a little bit of the New York studio, but also talk about some of my project work. In the New York studio, we're led by Mohammed, who unfortunately could be with us. And we are lucky, right, to have 3 interior design directors in the office. So Amy May's in charge of the East region, and exclusively lighting, means specialty interiors, and myself focused on CAP. So I actually started at HDR back in 2008, left for a little sort of burns and came back for the almost 4 years now, 3 years ago. Both before and now, almost exclusively focused on international work. A lot in the Middle East and with Asia, China. And a lot of that's meant pretty rapid concept generation and rapid visualization. Really quick into ideas, so writing that hard about speaking. Most of those projects, it really does require kind of showing something quickly and early on to get people engaged with the project. And then moving quickly through. So I think that's a little different than maybe a lot of interiors are used to working. So my first project that brought me to HDR, which I'm sure everyone has seen it, is the Cleveland Clinic Abu Dhabi project. That was obviously a very exciting once-in-a-lifetime project to work on. And actually, when they worked on the mock-up rooms, speaking of visualizations and renderings, they actually had our renderings in the rooms here to compare to next, I'll go into some stuff that's current on the books. So this first project is the Clinic Abu Dhabi. We're adding on almost 2 million square feet to an existing 2 million square foot project done by Stantec. It's actually only been open a couple of years and they're already adding to it. Before adding on is represented by the line. So we're adding on in each department, we're adding to the existing bed towers and ICU units, and then adding 2 clinic buildings and education, conference, and research buildings, all connected by this new kind of common room space. So this is kind of a new looking into the lobby and back the other way in terms of the existing buildings and the research building, which is kind of going to be this tool on this space. Views inside, and I think what's key on all these projects with the New York studio, at least, and some of the other ones I've worked on, is it's a collaboration with architecture. So we're not just applying finishes, we are actually shaping the space. We're involved early on when, even when building massing and building design is happening to shape the space, we're not coming in afterwards to just kind of eat the box. It's the views right inside the pre-function space of that auditorium. And we up into the clinic spaces, so it's pretty regular standard clinic module. We kind of use this idea of a chassis of inserting the desks in and kind of like move those along. As the clinic size is larger, and taking up more bays, but it's kind of standard module. I have a project that's probably familiar to some people was the Riyadh Hospital. If anybody kind of was watching the capacity last year, this is one of the projects. Working with it was really interesting to be doing this, and actually we did on TOH, aligning the entry right across to that's kind of something garden atrium space. You're entering the building on kind of the finished part, and this atrium is then visible from the upper floors. So this idea of getting us involved in shaping the space, which is kind of continuing we're left with afterwards, and involving us early and often. This is really important to close and touch on that. So just moving up into some of the clinic floors, so a typical waiting space, and then this is really kind of not, and then a view of the patient room. So really kind of trying to integrate all of the millwork in a seamless way as well. I also had the privilege of working with Jason at the Ottawa Hospital. This was actually really interesting process because we kind of started on the interiors, at least started with the patient room first, rather you're often kind of starting with the big idea of the public space. We started with the patient room and really kind of emphasize those views to the outside and getting these full height windows that actually shape how the facade ended up being treated on the outside. And that idea of maximizing views and views to land and sky has permeated through a lot of the project. And it's not just that we like atriums and we like views outside, but it was really part of a lot of meetings with the Indigenous Peoples Advisory Council, that it's not kind of just one idea of one culture, but a commonality to this idea of cultural safety, which is a term that you kind of coined, was the idea of always having views to land and sky and views out. And it helps kind of give more validity to something that might be considered a nice to have and not necessary. It is very necessary to kind of the idea of cultural safety in the facility. And then we actually kind of worked on the public spaces last in the sequence of what we were working to. So again, this idea of multi-story atrium is not just something that is, you know, a beautiful celebratory space, but again, giving people visibility up to where they're going and how to where they come from. And we have this feature wall throughout the space that we're calling the Ribbon of Healing, which you know, unfortunately, to build this project, a lot of trees had to be removed from that site. And we had the forethought of saving them all, cataloging the species, and they will be utilized to create this feature. So I have to talk to Mike about how to detail this in the future. And obviously, it's a multitude of species, but we kind of kept it a simple idea of wood at the moment, but knowing that it's going to actually be multiple colors. But also similar to back to respecting the land and indigenous people that were on it, but the idea that, you know, we're living these trees and we're trying to use them in a meaningful way that brings beauty to the facility, but it's also a way to find an element as it's coming up through the space. So it's honoring the legacy of those trees and a nice way to replace them. And then I'm not going to steal too much thunder on it because Brian Platos and maybe Mohamed's coming in to talk about the NHS new hospital program in the UK. My involvement is really on creating some visualizations and ideas around the patient room and highlighting this modular aspect of it. So it's civil architecture of the room, but all of the components, the footwall, the sink system will be a modular will work really solution brought into the room. And the patient toilet is really kind of added on to the exterior. And so we're losing that space that's usually out at the window that the family space is tucked into. That's gone now because the toilet is really outside of the building footprint. So we're looking at ways of trying to integrate a space for the family room footwall that's not really too much into the room. And then I'll touch on a few developer projects that, you know, Sally and Brian have been bringing into the New York office. So this is out in Rutgers, they're out in New Brunswick, New Jersey. It's the developer SGP. It's going to be a sole tenant, so a client in the building. It's a confidential client, but it's a European client. And right now, European technology client. Right now, we are doing Horan shell and then public spaces, and that's actually started. Another project for Benenson Capital on the side, kind of the medical and research corridor. So this is a developer building that also has Horan shell and then spaces, and this does not have a tenant yet. And I'm going to move completely on the other spectrum in scale. This is a project that actually Elizabeth Bonley and I were approached to do. This is for Ceramics of Italy, which is the umbrella for all of the Italian ceramic and porcelain tile manufacturers. And so we did a trade booth this year for them at a trade show called Coverings. And they approached us, which was nice to be in the running because we had looked at who the previous designers of these booths have been in the past, and it was, you know, firms like Bruce Mao and Gerard Schumi, so it was kind of an honor that they approached us and asked us. And that actually came through a relationship that with Elizabeth and I have with the PR firm that does the PR for this group, and they also do the PR for Interior Design Magazine, Metropolis Magazine, Solidere Mobile, ICFF, Neocon, just they are very tapped in, and they also are the reason that we did the turf show, right? Because they are the PR firm for turf as well. So it's been interesting to be able to have that relationship with a PR firm that is bringing work to us. My relationship with them started because I entered, there's a contest that you can submit your work, and it's a competition through the Ceramics of Italy group, and my project won it for institutional category, so that's how I makes people know how they process work. And then I'm going to move into some other pro bono work that the New York office is engaged in. So DIFA is a nonprofit that I'm in Florida, and I started engaging HDR in some of our fundraiser events. So we have a major fundraiser each year where different design firms basically, we do buy in and we get a plot of land, and you have about a day to design kind of a bespoke interactive experience in the space. And so it's not only a challenge of what kind of exhibit or space you might put together, but knowing that you've only got 8 to 10 hours to build it, so that kind of plays into what you're going to build and how. And then we don't really have the ability at HDR, maybe other firms, to just throw money at it. So it also starts with who's giving us what products, so we can put it in here. And luckily we got a relationship with an artist named Giles Miller, and to help kind of realize our idea. He works a lot in Revit right now to model these kind of parametrically modeled sculptures and art pieces, and so we work together to create this piece together. So the centerpiece is kind of this orb, and it has a motor that spins in the middle, and then we wanted to have an interactive component to it, so we have a back wall where at the beginning of the night, these tabs were all folded closed, and we had a brief to ask people to write what hope meant to them on the back of it, so they fold it down, and then they're writing what hope is to them. We had pencils hanging from chains on the ceiling. And I'll also show you a little video that we did as a teaser for it. We got me teaching to create an animation for us to kind of as a teaser before the event, and it actually helps lives on after the fact because it's a temporal exhibit, and the organization ended up using it as kind of advertisement on their socials and stuff before the event. And actually shout out to Damien, because we enlisted Damien on actually cutting and fabricating these walls for us. And then, I don't know if you know who this is, Jake Krakowski told us that ours was her favorite exhibit of the night that evening. And then I will say also, a huge shout out to the New York studio, because a lot of these other design firms, they can hire contract venues to show up when it's done, and like, great. Everybody just really showed up and were very hands-on in building this. It was also a good team building for the studio itself. Both architecture and interiors, all Christian, everybody does working on it, and so that was nice too, that people had something that they could fabricate together. That was last year. This year, we had even more constraints in the space because we couldn't have any walls without having to pay for it. We were not allowed to build anything ourselves because we partnered with the Javits Center this year. Actually, Brian attended this event. So I thought, okay, let's hang it from the ceiling this time. And this time, our idea, last time the idea was hope it to you, this was act and a call to action. So we had a suspended platform, and then these pieces hanging that, depending on which way you're standing, the letters the word act would come into view. Again, we did a nice little animation that DIFA, the organization, used on their websites to promote the event. And then because it was kind of a singular element that you interact with simply by walking around and viewing it, the team actually worked on a bespoke Instagram filter. So we had a QR code within the space, and you could basically kind of create these little videos showing kind of the pieces falling around you, people posting on their Instagram account. So it was able to live on beyond the physical space that we worked in.
This is a really, really, I won't say competitive, but the who's who of design companies in New York want to get here and be known. You see the data center, it's a big deal. Somehow we're pulled off getting this as a centerpiece of the entire data center. And everybody else is just pale. And people, you said, other companies do rooms you will introduce. This was that version of the space, and it really made a big difference. It was very gave HDR clear kind of leadership. New York,
Yeah.
New York, but so I think you're underselling how important what you do is and what we're doing should be. I mean, we can do this in every city and get involved in that way. It would raise our range. Must be you.
No, Brian, keep going, it's, yeah.
And then,
There's questions on that.
and nice.
Brooke, do we have a formalized offer for art creation? Because we are approached all the time for public art, functional public art, and that is a space in itself. Every federal grant is to have arts, an arts association, really part of the budget association for art, and that's something that if we have something that's working more in interior spaces that we can migrate to the exterior spaces be used.
Well, funny you say, actually, this artist and ourselves are teaming with Ohio State University, right here. Actually,
Nice.
show yours, go
No,
ahead.
So part of the, one of the spaces in the public lobby of OSU, they were looking at different ways to create a bespoke art piece along kind of lounge area. And I know that your mom was showing different ideas, and then Mo and you ended up showing them what we did for different years for DIFA, and I think it helped sell it. Now this is not the design, it's just to show another piece by that artist, but we're going to collaborate on a bespoke piece with Josh Horan, which he's very thrilled about because for 2 years he's given us free sculptures, with asking nothing in return other than he wanted to contribute to a fundraising event. Luckily for him, some of you from the New York office know that one of them hanging in the office. They think.
Yes, the answer is yes.
So yeah. And then I didn't really think about it until more recently, like some of this self-love and this about the different outreach that I do. So obviously, the Foundation, involvement with IITA. I've also taught in a master's program at New York School of Interior Design. We actually, not for me, but we have someone in our office who went to school in that program. I was a juror for a few years for Best of Neocon, and now I'm on their advisory council. And then received an honor from NASAD for response to watch. So I guess the point with some of the outreach is it can come back and pay dividends somehow. It's also nice to do.
Why not?
Thanks, Brooke.
So thank you, Brooke. And I've asked Lois to come and speak a little bit about brief discussion of where we head.